It looks like we are live, I think. So if y'all are seeing us out there, we're catching up.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so let me hit record. Record. All right, here we are. Hello, 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 everyone. If you're catching us here live on YouTube, love to have you, love to see you, and welcome to our 14th episode of Holistic Health Happy Hour.
What?
14th. You know, and they say most YouTubers don't get past, hang on, I gotta mute so we don't make noise. Okay, most YouTubers don't get past 3. So,
Really?
I mean, podcasters, I should say, not YouTubers, don't get past 3. So here we are. I mean, like, hello, I think that's awesome. So anyway, I'm Julie Sherwood, your Best Hopes Wellness Coaching. I do constellational astrology, 13 sign, life sky, various kinds of readings. I'm also a root cause therapy practitioner. You can hit me up and ask me what that means, but helping you remove blocks from realizing your life potentials and especially making it connect to the stars and the cosmic blueprint you were given at birth. So yourbesthopeswc.com, and my lovely co-host is here.
I am Maria Schumacher. I am a 13 sign constellational astrologer also. My website is venus-13.com. I write a daily astro blog that I post on 3 different places in Facebook. Radical Astrology, Cosmic Reflections, which is a cute little website. Needs more love. Yeah, I'm sorry, Facebook site. Needs more love. And another private site. Um, yeah. Sorry, derailed my own thought train.
Mercury
I am
retrograde, friend.
also a I know I want to say too many things at the same time. I am a
And
practicing witch and priestess of the Wicca, I guess you would say. And that is reflected in my website too and the offerings that I have there. So venus-13.com to learn more.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So,
There we go.
what you got for us? You got a little screen you can share with us to show us what's going on in the sky?
Hey, hear that chart. Yes. So we're here to talk about the full moon coming up in a few days, which will be in the constellation of Aquarius. Barely.
Yeah, I
Your
was just
screen
going
is
to say
loading.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
Got one
Okay.
little foot.
Got it?
Got one little foot in that constellation. Yes.
Yes. Yes. It is really straddling the constellations of Capricorn and Aquarius. See the moon down there, like all by herself at the bottom of the chart.
Yep.
Yep, there she is. What's what is interesting about this moon really is that it is fed by just about everybody else. So as you see, the focus of
Uh-oh, darling,
much
you're breaking up.
everything going on in
It's okay. We got this. We got this.
I can't help it, you guys. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Um, there's nothing I can do to boost my signal, and I just don't want to go inside. So there's
We got it.
then Julie, why don't you talk about it so that we don't lose words?
Okay, so fill in as we can. Mercury, you're going to play nice in the sandbox. That's all we're going to say. The biggest thing that we noticed is, the moon gets a lot of attention when it comes to a full moon, and because there's a lot of energy behind it. However, everything is pointing up here. Whoops, let me get my little annotation pen going again. Everything is pointing up here. Up here. So it's pointing to the sun, it's pointing to Mercury. And if you notice, these guys are right next to each other. They're literally so they're conjunct, 1 degree apart.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of energy pointing up there, but we also have, as my dear co-hostess loves to focus on, we have these yods going on. And you see the little triangle there, right? So why don't you tell us what yods do for us?
Yod, known as the finger of God. Yods are imperative energy. It's it's sort of like taking your head and pointing it right at a thing, right? No, 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 you are going to notice this. Yep. So Pluto and Neptune, both of whom are retrograde, are directing our attention to Sun and Mercury. Pluto and Neptune, the way that I've been interpreting this is since they're retrograde, this is internal, right? This is a personal thing. Those energies are wanting us to express what is deeply inside, a deeply held belief, something that maybe we're ashamed of, something that maybe we feel strongly about, whatever it is that we haven't really expressed or just need to express. You're going to want to bring it out because Sun is the light and Mercury is communication and Leo is all about self-expression.
Hmm. And Mercury in retrograde again, it's, while I've been railing on him for causing us some technological difficulties, I've stopped doing that, so don't hear me. It's again the re word. We're back to that re, retrograde, reconsideration, revisit. How are you expressing yourself in a way where you really think about the Neptunian, Plutonian energy, right? Because again, these guys down at the bottom of the chart, right here and right here, are also in retrograde,
Yeah.
and they're pointing up. They're like saying, take both of those energies and use that to point to the Mercury Sun conjunction, and harness what is it that you're intuiting, Neptune. What is it you want to transform, Pluto, as you express yourself in a way that is authentic to who you are. Leo is all about the self, the one, and how we as an individual show up in the world.
Authentic and brave. And brave.
Yes.
It takes a little courage to say some of those things that we, there's a reason why we feel uncomfortable saying them.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily want to hear ourselves being a bigot. We don't want to hear ourselves being prejudiced. We don't want to hear ourselves being hateful or angry. That's not consistent with my self-image, right? And yet it's in there. You got to hear it. And that kind of leads into that connection with the other big aspects that here is that grand cross that involves the sun moon opposition and the Uranus Lilith opposition. So as the yod from Pluto and Neptune is encouraging us to express the deeply held stuff, philosophies, beliefs, things. This grand cross encourages us to hear ourselves say it.
Mm-hmm.
What I think. Hear yourself, hear your friend, be a witness to that friend so that you can hear what they say out of it, but also hear yourself. Like, okay, you know,
Well, and I think the other piece of this is I was looking at, you've got Pluto here and you've got Neptune here, but right smack in the middle is the moon
mm-hmm,
in Aquarius,
mm-hmm,
ruled by Uranus. It's all about the authenticity that you
yes,
bring to the greater collective, the greater community, whatever. And Uranus incites us to be a bit rebellious, a bit revolutionary. There's those two words with REs again,
exactly.
you
And then
know.
opposite there, you've got Lilith in Libra.
Yes.
And as I wrote it today, she brings some judgment to this whole process from a place of deep truth and sovereignty, right? Because Lilith, always knows what isn't working for her. Lilith is sovereign and she demands that sovereignty and she encourages us to walk in it as well. So she's going to be there, with Uranus opposite saying, yeah, you got to say it. You got to say it. Even if it's weird and wacky, you got to say it. And then she'll be like, all right, did you just hear that?
Right.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and Libra being the scales of balance, right? As above, so below. Balance that discernment from, again, the Neptunian intuitive energy and messaging, but also standing in your authenticity as you do it, right? It's not just about you, it's also about how you show up for others and with others. Libra,
yes, yes,
Libra.
yes, yes,
So, and
very yes.
interestingly enough, in about 45 minutes, Maria and I are going to join some other astro colleagues and have a little conversation about um, those who have been considered the rulers of Virgo and Libra for centuries. And we're going to talk about how that might not quite be the case. So, or it's been shifted. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we might be sort of sensing something different these days. So yeah,
Right.
nice segue, my friend.
What can I say? What can I say?
Ooh,
The other thing that we still have going on is we still have it's separating, but it's only separating by 3 degrees, is the Mars Jupiter stuff going on. So,
we
there's an influence there as well, expanding into that warrior energy. However, doing it in a way, I mean, Mars does not like being in Taurus. He is all asses and elbows, let's get going. And Taurus, the bull, is like, is it stable before you go? Take one
uh-huh.
step at a time. Are you sure that you value this process, Taurus?
Don't
And
go running into that minefield. You
yes. And Jupiter's been, always known as the benefic, but Jupiter can also be um, extreme in that, right? The pendulum can swing one way or the other. And so he can really put some push behind Mars. It's like, yeah, go, go, go. But Mars in Taurus is like, yeah, not yet, not yet. So there can be some friction in that energy too.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah. And
It's
Uranus
true.
is
And
still hanging
that
out on Algol too.
exactly. And that conjunction, the Mars and Jupiter conjunction, is connected to the sun by a quintile. And
Yes.
Uranus, of course, is connected to the sun by a square. So all of that is referencing or contacting, influencing this Sun Mercury thing, which is therefore influencing this full moon.
And squares and quintiles can be a little, you know,
Quintiles are fun. We like quintiles. They're kind of next level genius level creativity,
hmm
and that can be super fun. I mean, let's face it, a Mars Jupiter conjunction quintile to Mercury and the Sun can have some great ideas, right? I mean, talk
yes.
about that fast moving inspiration that's been coming through. So yeah, I wouldn't say that this is anything to be afraid of. And
No.
the I think the most positive way to look at the Mars Jupiter conjunction is that yes, it is that push that a lot of us need. That push to, all right, now that we've sort of purged whatever's been holding us back, right? We've admitted that maybe we took a bit of a too strong stance against broccoli and that maybe we could just let that go. So now let's move on. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
yeah, okay. Okay, we
Well, and you made a reference in your daily. So if y'all haven't seen that on Radical Astrology or Cosmic Reflections, go take a peek, see, and maybe drop a penny or two in the tip jar. Just putting it out there. Is that retrograde Mercury? It's Mercury is all thought processes, right? It's that bombardment of information, data. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Retrograde takes the logic part out of it, I think, and brings in the creative element of the thinking process. And you alluded to that, and I think this Mars Jupiter piece of it helps us start taking some momentum to institute some of these ideas. And it's a one step at a time thing,
yeah,
right? So
well put,
make
Julie.
that
Yeah.
one connection, make that one phone call, propose that one idea with somebody that can help you bring it to fruition. I think there's room for that. So if there's something that's been cooking in your mind and you've really been, oh, I really want to be creative, Leo, I really
Mhm.
want to be creative with this, but I just don't know quite how to get going. Take one step, just one. Tell a friend about it. See what they say. That could be
Yes.
a step.
take one step and get a little momentum behind it so that, eventually when, these aspects dissipate, something's already rolling,
Right,
right?
right.
We can make use of this energy to get things started that we're going to want to keep going in the future. But sometimes just getting started really needs a push, especially when the thing that we're getting started is something we've never done before. And
Yes.
this is, I'm segueing now into that grand trine, and we're zooming out to the macro level. Part of what we all have been feeling here is this sense of a big closing, right? The old way closing out. Some large cycle is ending, some old way closing out. So, yay, something new is beginning. Yay, exciting. But at the same time, we have to face letting go of everything we've known. And there is a difficulty there because
Mm-hmm.
even if you know it isn't good for you, even if you know it hasn't been the best, and even if you want something different, because you never experienced something different, it's hard to see beyond that paradigm,
Right,
right?
right.
And that's where we really need Uncle Uranus and Algol and Lilith, and even the galactic center, and
Mhm.
places that live in that unknown, live in that uh, um, in the
Wormhole.
chaos, in the abyss, in the wormhole, in
Yep.
places where the new comes from. And all of those words we've been taught to be afraid of, right? We don't want a wormhole. We don't want an abyss. We don't want chaos. We don't want none of that. And yet, when you need to break out of something you've only known your entire life, that's exactly where you go.
Yes, absolutely. And what is the grand trine you're alluding to? And I'll draw the picture.
Sun, Mercury,
Yep.
galactic center, and Eris Chiron.
Okay. That's what I was seeing too. I just want to make sure it's the
Yep.
same triangle.
Which is really because it actually is a very, very long running grand trine between Regulus, Galactic Center, and Eris. Those
Yes.
three have been in a grand trine since 2014 and
Mhm.
will continue to be in grand trine through 2059, right? So that's why I say we're out in the macro. We're closing out and dismantling something and starting something new, but we're doing it in a way that we can handle, that doesn't make us insane because everything we've ever known suddenly blew up in our faces, right?
Right, right.
That what this is. And so now we've got Sun and Mercury with Regulus, and we've got Chiron with Eris. And that's
Hmm.
highlighting this grand trine.
Because they're the ones that are moving, right? The galactic center doesn't move, and well, I'm sorry, the Mercury moves, but Regulus doesn't. Regulus is fixed. The
Regulus
galactic
doesn't
center is
move.
fixed.
Galactic Center doesn't
Right.
really move. And Eris moves so slowly. That's why it's till 2059, right?
Yeah,
So
550-year transit for Ms. Eris. So, but the other, I think the interesting thing too is you've got Chiron there, Chiron the wounded healer, and he's in retrograde too. So it's that revisit, review, reflection, and Chiron in Pisces to me is all about um, taking on everybody else's wounds, right? You're so compassionate, so empathic that you take it all. And criminy sakes, if there isn't enough out there to take on these days, the question becomes how can you make these changes and not absorb everybody else's angst in the process?
and also recognizing that your healing is also healing the collective.
Yes, yes, especially in Pisces, we're all one, we're all
Yeah, yeah,
interconnected.
yeah.
I think that's the piece to really look at
Mhm.
and understand how we move into that next macro level,
Yeah.
right? Like you were saying, it's taking that next dimensional step. But we're terrified of letting go of the story we know. Whether it be
Well,
your personal
sure.
story or your societal story or whatever, the global story, it doesn't matter. It's that fear of jumping into that abyss, as you were saying. It's like that fool
Yeah.
tarot card.
And the more we let ourselves express those fears, the more we hear ourselves talk, the more we will realize what we're afraid of and give ourselves a chance to let go. So you can see how all of these aspects are working together right now.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
Julie, so now how do we, with our little moons, how does the moon help us to navigate all of this right now?
So one of the things that I was looking at was, again, we mentioned earlier, the moon is right here, just in that first degree of Aquarius. So the moon is bringing in some of that energy of Capricorn, right? Because when they're on a cusp, my metaphor is it's like the wisping smoke of white sage coming in, so that's going to be Capricorn as the moon is moving into Aquarius. So you've got the wisps, you've got the scent coming in with you of Capricorn. And Capricorn is the stars of building foundations, right? It's the structure, the societal rules, the foundation of things, time. Saturn rules Capricorn.
Okay.
So once we've come out of those stars and we thought about how we want to build these foundations, are these foundations things that support our need for freedom, Aquarius? Our need to be authentically who we are in our collective society with humanity. So our holistic energy that we're talking about is we've been exploring quite a bit about the divine feminine. That's come up in a number of circles I'm involved with.
Oh
And
yeah.
we're looking to balance that against the go, go, go warrior energy of the divine masculine. So how can we bring a bit of yin and a bit of receptiveness to the process? So one of the tools I like to work with is from this lovely deck called the Wild and Sacred Feminine. And there's different categories. So this time we looked at animals. And so the animal element, divine feminine element, is the turtle for Capricorn. Whoop, bring it up to the camera there for Capricorn. And you can see it says grounding and foundational, build from the ground up. The keywords I have is you're holding, like you're taking that time to really build for the long term. There's no haste and you're building from the bottom up. Foundational. And at the same time, as soon as you step out of Capricorn, it's like now I'm free to explore that since I've built the foundations. I've got that steady base. And so the animal that I like for that is freedom, the horse. And you can just see, sitting on that horse and just letting it take you across the plains, across the pastures, freedom, wild liberty. So we can use that moon's energy to really think about how do we want to build our personal foundation, Sun, Mercury, Leo, to help our collective heal and work with that grand trine, right? As you were talking about, so that we can see freedom for all of us. However you define that. However you define that. So,
Yeah.
and the moon makes it personal.
That's just it. We've got a couple of counterpoints here. Most of these planets are decidedly masculine in temper, right? The
Yes.
sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, even Pluto have a masculine flavor. Um, most people most people think of Neptune as masculine. I don't. I think that Neptune's energy is much more spiral. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we've got her there. Okay, yay, thanks for helping out with that. At Uranus, masculine. Uh, so we've got the Lilith and the Moon. Lilith, the Moon, and Neptune really helping to give an injection of divine feminine that needs some balance. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we've harped on the rise of the divine feminine. Yeah, we've harped on it. We've harped on it. But it really is a thing. And it really is still a thing. And we are still seeing it be a thing in our collective today.
Mm-hmm. And rise doesn't mean overtake.
No.
That's the other thing is, we've had the divine masculine up here and we're looking at this. And Lilith in Libra helps with that, right? It's that balancing of the scales. Let the divine feminine come up and meet the divine masculine in a way that it's in balance. It's not going to be like this.
Exactly. So that we can stop talking about things in terms of ruling and conquering and controlling, and all of those, hyper masculine war words that, again, not like
Overpower.
overpowering. Not that there is, again, not that there's anything wrong with the masculine, because the divine feminine without the masculine is also off balance.
Right,
It's
right.
also off kilter and would not result in the society we want either. You
You
know?
know, that also begs the question, or well, not begs the question, but it reminds us the other thing that is, I believe, in square, oh yes, is we have these two in square, Mars and Venus.
Yes.
So, again, square energies, a lot of people out in the astrology world see squares as like, ew, gross, hard energies. They can be challenging because if you ignore them, they're still going to come up, right? So you meet the
Yep.
challenge where it's at. What can I do to understand this energy between Mars and Venus? They're at right angles to one another.
I
So,
mean, they're in a P square with Saturn, for Christ's sake. Yeah, look at
well,
that.
there's that too.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is that too. So, it's that question of how do you see them in balance, right? Meet at the connection point as opposed to being out here or out here.
Yeah.
So it's
That's,
it's it's time to understand that. Yeah, here's Mr. Saturn down here.
yep. There's Saturn down there, and
And I
there's
can't draw very well
Venus.
with the trackball, but there you
I
go.
know it's hard. There's Venus opposite and Mars, Jupiter there. So yeah.
And again,
How
well, I was going to say, and we talked about Jupiter expanding Mars's energy, but who rules Taurus? Well, we're using that ruler word. Who reigns over in a beautiful way of Taurus? Venus. So she's going to help soften that a bit,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So
Who's the main influence of Taurus, I would say.
there you
That
go. Right.
rulership. We will talk about the word rulerships too. The suggestion has been made that they talk about ruler not in terms of kingship or domination, but like as a form of measure.
Guardian,
Hmm.
the guardian of the stars, and Mars being a fire sign in the Earth sign of Taurus, and Venus, an Earth, planet being in the fire sign of Leo. There's a nice balance with that,
Yeah.
right? Um, it really helps make that counterpoint in a way where you can look at again, take that one step forward and sit back a little bit, see what
Hmm.
happens. Take another step forward, sit back a little bit, see what happens without scrambling up the mountain all the way.
All the way for sure.
Yep, 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 yep.
And then so getting back to the moon again as the signal that how we balance the collective, how we make all of this come to fruition in the collective is to work on it in ourselves.
Yes,
That's there's our full moon right there. She's opposite all of this, saying, okay, we want to make all of this happen. Start it in here. Start it in here. Start it in here. And she's right on that cusp of Capricorn of the turtle and the horse, right? You could almost say the turtle and the hare, where you've got to balance the slow moving and the fast moving. You've got to, you know, take that initiative of the fast moving masculine planets and balance it with the judgment of the slower moving feminine.
right, right, right. And judgment me in the sense of discernment.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
not in the sense of opinionated. It's more like, oh, I'm going to sit back and, see how this feels. See how
Well,
this feels.
that's right. How does this feel? How does this feel? Does
Hmm.
this feel right to you? So that there is a certain amount of value judgment that has to come out of all this. Because
Exactly.
we also do have to decide where, as a collective, we are going to be going in terms of human rights, in terms of personal freedoms, in terms of co the ability for everybody to prosper, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So yes, there is going to we do have to make a value judgment in that regard. But we can only start it personally. We can only do, I can't dictate a value judgment for the collective. I can only decide for myself. And then if enough of us decide the same way for ourselves, then that's where stuff goes. A
Right.
preponderance of the evidence will show that yada da da da.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And again, that's the Aquarian constellation. You're bringing it to the greater community. It's not just your little community out the back door. It's the broader community, the global humanitarian sense. However, I also see that the way we build that, the moon invites us to do that with ourselves, and then bring it to that person out your back door, and bring it to your family, bring it to your close friends, bring your
yeah,
immediate close community. And then when you together as a unit bring that to the next community, then guess what? You're starting to build the Aquarian community.
that's how it works. You start with
Yep,
yourself and then you share it with your bestie and then you share it with your family because moon, because fourth
yep,
house,
yep,
right?
yep.
Yes.
And I think the Mercury retrograde, one of the other things I've been kind of reflecting on is
Uh,
getting out of the head and more into the heart. So Mercury being in retrograde allows for that. It's again not that logical, constant thinking in an active sense. It's more in that heart-centered, intuitive sense, that creative sense. And I
mhm.
think that's something to bring through into your collective community too. It's how do you feel about that? How does that resonate with you? That goes back to that discernment thing too. How does the turtle take the next step? He takes the next step through feeling his way through it. It doesn't have to be, all right, I've got a map. I'm going to drive for 6 hours, make a stop here. No, it's like, no, I feel like going right instead of left today, you know?
Because that the logic brain would not want to admit this, but the brain can be fooled.
Oh,
The
yes.
logic brain can be manipulated, can be fooled. They can lay out a case that makes truth seem like a lie. And
Hmm.
sometimes your only tool for navigating that is are the other brains, the heart brain and the gut brain, right?
Yep.
Which are moon based.
Yep.
We have to use them all at the same time. Now, you can't necessarily feel your way through everything either because you you won't. I am here to tell you that if you rely too much on your feelings, you won't necessarily land on anything.
Right. Right. That's where, again, that,
Know what I
that
mean?
yin yang comes together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it occurs to me that a great way to navigate these energies right now, because I'm sort of hearing the question, okay, that's great, you guys. So now what do we do to get through this? Would be things that sort of combine that movement with that reconsideration. So like meditating while walking.
Yes. Love it.
Um, right? Things that are both active and passive at the same time. Maybe you have a hobby that you do that you don't really have to think about, and you can let downloads come in. Um,
Dancing.
Walking, dancing,
Dancing.
yoga, something that makes use of your body, get some physical motion in there, but doesn't require you to be focusing all your attention on
On
something.
data, right?
Exactly.
Shamanic drumming, or spiritual drumming, that's
Yes.
another great way to do that too, because you're using the physical action of the body, and that repetition helps you just disconnect from the logic brain.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
And
Um,
ironically, we're asking people to watch a video right now, but it's almost like, sitting in front of a computer and watching videos is kind of the last thing you want to
well, that's why
doing all of this, but hey.
record replay. It's always available.
Exactly.
So.
And, the move's not for another day or so. So what the heck? But
Well, and the other thing that's really interesting is look at how much is in retrograde right now too. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, and I guess, and I think if I remember correctly, Venus goes retrograde. I mean, not Venus, Uranus goes retrograde, I think at the end of this month.
he does.
Yeah.
Yes. And won't that be fun? oh boy, we get to reapproach Algol.
Yeah.
As
Yay.
if it wasn't fun enough the first time. But it was fun the first time. Let's face it. So anyway, it's just, I had I had this thought earlier as I'm writing the daily, right? And it was like, I have to admit this Mercury retrograde has been less technically glitchy than I
Hmm.
would have expected.
Hmm.
But then, with Uranus in contact, with Uranus in square, it's like, but of course, the thing that we least expect from Mercury retrograde is that everything runs smoothly. So that's what Uranus is going to
Uncle
deliver.
Dave,
Yeah,
coming to the party.
Uncle Dave, right.
Yeah.
Always with the unexpected. So, in a lot of ways, the last thing most of us expect in the world right now is that everything works out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what if that's exactly what Dave is going to deliver? The thing we least expect is that everything works out and it's easier than we thought.
And
Nobody is thinking that.
well, and Uncle Dave is in charge of publishing and technology, right? So he's in the forward momentum right now. So he's kind of helping us along with this.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
we'll take it. We'll take it. That doesn't mean that you ignore the fact that Mercury retrograde calls for us to just take an extra step before you open your mouth or before you execute an agreement with somebody or before
Yes.
whatever. It's that take that extra just take that extra moment to read it again.
Just to be careful because you may have missed something because
Yes,
Mercury is in retrograde. Yes. Yes.
yes, yes, for sure. And he's a fast mover. So it's like once he starts coming out of the retrograde, he's going to be in shadow for a couple more weeks. In shadow meaning until he gets back to the place he was when he went retrograde. So
Right.
you still have that energy there. It's not quite as backwards, for lack of a better term, as it is when he's in full retrograde, but it's still that, maybe I'll count to 5 instead of 10 before I open my mouth. you know? You know? Especially with Leo. So, Leo can just be that impetuous kid that just wants to spit it out and get it out.
Yeah.
So, but he can also bring some creative energy too in that expression. I really think there's an opportunity, writing. How have you been finding writing the dailies? Have you been noticing that there's been more of a creative flow in the process rather than thinking about all the techno stuff?
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. I mean, and I think you can see it too. My dailies have gone from like this to like this. I kind of, I kind of go. So I have found it a lot easier to write the day. I found that my dailies have also been a bit more introspective than they usually are. But
Ah, we have
then
we have a question on, sorry, excuse me, on the YouTube. What happened with Uranus and Algol? Would you like to tell?
what happened with
Well,
Uranus
first tell what
and
Algol is
Algol?
all about.
Okay. So, well, first of all, they perfected on 15 July, right? And at about that time, there she is. At about that time, I think a presidential candidate got shot. Uh,
2 days before.
I'm sorry, yeah, 2 days before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, wasn't Ukraine preparing to invade Russia? Like, donk. That turned around. There was another big attack I mean, just shit happened
Mm-hmm.
and crazy stuff began to happen. So there in American politics, there was that shift. The riots in the UK were
Heating up.
exactly. I think that those girls were killed right around then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
July 15th is when they perfected. And
And
a
the
lot of
energy of Algol is, for those who may
the
not know.
the energy of Algol is the energy of Medusa, right? She whose head had been severed. Classically, that star is thought of as the demon star. I want us to keep in mind that when we are talking about classical astrology, we are talking about astrology as conceived and written by men in a patriarchal society. So there's a slant,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which nowadays we don't necessarily agree with, but I will give you the classical take on it, that it is a demon star, that it represents the head of Medusa that was cut off by Perseus. And so in that mythology, when that eye is turned upon you, when you look on Medusa's head, bad things happen. What what we have been finding in a more modern interpretation of that is that Algul represents the severing, what's the word I want? The abused feminine,
Mm-hmm.
the severing of the head from the body at the point of the voice, right?
Yes.
When Algul is activated like this, and especially by Uranus, because he's always, what you don't expect, he's not going to go with the classical interpretation of that. He is going to help to be reconnecting the head to the body of the divine feminine, of the goddess, of you know the abused female.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people don't like me to say that, but um that that voice that had been silenced, and that can be anybody who's running divine feminine energy, but
Yeah.
mostly we're talking about people who are in and have been in a woman body.
And the other interesting one that was conjunct at the same time was Mars, the
Mhm.
masculine warrior energy. And the other thing too is Taurus is where Algol sits, is again the stars of what do you value? It's that connection to the five senses. It's the connection to the Venus energy. It's the connection to Mother Earth. And the other thing I think what this also brought was the revolution, Uranus, the remembering, and the moon is accentuating that now, being in Aquarius, the stars that Uranus rules or guardians over, is a return to what is it that we value in the divine feminine world of holistic health, hence our holistic health happy hour. And I'm going to get on my little soapbox here for a minute. The mainstream medical system has really done us a disservice. There's some wonderful, valuable things about it, but it really has done us a disservice in that it's removed our ability to connect to all things holistic and intuitive, right? It bastardized holistic medicine in a way that people who were afraid of availing themselves of these modalities. And I think that this energy that hit around the middle of July really started to open up. I'm starting to see more things even in my mainstream world, even though I'm kind of connected to it. I'm seeing
Yeah,
more and more conversations about, wait a minute, that doesn't seem to work with me anymore.
yeah,
How about I look at this? Or being open
yes,
to it, right? I'm not
yes.
I'm not disparaging allopathic mainstream medicine and everything. There are some things in there that are still very good, but in a balanced way, bring in the holistic integrative approach along with divine masculine, divine feminine. Balance it.
Well, and that's the collective benefit of reattaching the head to the body.
Thank you.
Yes, you reattach the head to the body of the monster. Whatever the monster is, right? Whatever the thing you fear is, whatever the thing that has been vilified, whatever the thing that had been, made other, whatever the thing that had been rejected, whatever. Reattach the head to the body, and now I'm a whole being,
Right.
and I am in communication. My head is in communication with my body. I can express what's going on. And now we're seeing that heightened self-expression with Mercury and the sun in all of it. You know what I mean? So it
Yep.
is like once we, as we're reattaching all of that, as we are reintegrating all of the parts that had been made monster
Yep.
over centuries, right? And we do talk about it in terms of woman,
Hmm.
but it's not only it. I mean, um, feminine traits, intuition,
Right.
feminine
Nurturing.
associations of all kinds. Yeah,
Right.
nurturing versus discipline, analysis versus, you know, intake,
Mhm.
any of that, even true discernment rather than
Yes.
crime punishment.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
Yep, we're going to be able to deal with nuance better
Mhm. Mhm.
once we get our head reattached to our body. So that. I hope that didn't confuse you too much. I hope that
No,
that
I
answers.
think that's a beautiful way to bring it in and tying it all back to the moon because we're going to hop off here within the next 5 minutes because we're going to go into another discussion about, again, Mercury and Venus in terms of how they are the guardians of Virgo and Libra, and we're going to turn it on its head. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but tying it back to the moon, the other thing about the moon in Aquarius, I think it also invites us to take, and I've really been working hard to ascribe to this, take the observer, not the absorber role, right? Aquarius can
Mhm.
invite us to be a bit aloof, to kind of stand up above the crowd, take the survey, of the land, and really, before you get emotionally moon involved, see what's going on first. How does it feel again? Observe. Don't take it in as yours. Just hang out above all of the noise because we have a lot of noise right now. We're in a trauma drama cycle that is just pure insanity. And you have to detach from that and
You
just
really do.
take a look
Yes.
up above, you know. Actually, one of our chats on the YouTube, yes, this correlates with a dream I had just last night, reconnecting the nurturing feminine to the masculine intelligence.
Excellent. Nice.
Bravo. That's a
Nice.
beautiful way to kind of sum it all up. It's just a lovely way to connect the head to the body.
One thing I just want to leap ahead for 2 seconds and talk about because we know that Uranus is going to go retrograde and reconnect with Algol. Does that mean that everything that's happened is going to be undone in retrograde? Absolutely not.
No.
But what it could mean is that stuff that didn't quite get finished up in the first pass will
Right.
get finished up in the second. We get to revisit, right? We get to, all right, did that get taken care of? No, okay, let's take care of that. So it isn't that everything is going to be undone, and I do not feel that there's going to be another huge massive flip of energy
Yeah.
like there was with this one. First of all, there's not Mars involved. He's way on the other side.
Right. Right.
So if anything, I think that this was that moment and the moment between then and the Lionsgate was very much the event we've all been waiting for. Most of us had felt last year that something big was coming this year, and I think that was it.
Well, and don't forget, back on July 15th, again, we had Uncle Dave and Mars hanging out with Elgol. The next day, which happened to be my birthday, the only reason I remember, was when Pluto was in retrograde and it hit the exact same spot of the return for the U.S. July 4th, 1776 placement
Mhm.
for U.S. was born. I mean, as most astrologers will use that as the marker point. And again, it's that amplification of transformational energy in a generational sense. It takes 248 years to go around the entire zodiac. So this isn't like, tomorrow. And there's a lot of videos about it, so I'm not going to belabor it. It just reactivated that energy of how do you want to connect the head back in a way that benefits the entire country. Because again, the US Pluto return, I'm not dismissing any of the global events, but specifically to the US's transformation and how we move forward in the next 248 years, right? And I just invite people, remember your turtle. Just take your time, use that last whiff of the moon in Capricorn and look at how you want to build your foundations from the bottom up so that your foundational surface is stable, yet jump on your horse to freedom when you need.
Yes, yes, yes. But feel that call to freedom. Feel that wind in your hair and
Yeah.
get excited.
So let's take it off share and do our departing words here as we shift over. Again, if I have my Mercury retrograde brain on, I think we'll be live on my channel here, but we'll also be live on Dr. Danny Astrology's channel. and I believe in radical astrology for this discussion about the Mercury, Venus, Libra, Virgo conversation. If not, it'll
Are
come
we
up
really?
on, I think so.
Oh, geez,
And if
we're
not,
everywhere. Wow.
it will be in a replay. So we'd really love people's thoughts on this when we turn this on its head.
This is truly radical astrology, right? So yeah, yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah,
it's not.
or maybe it's not. Maybe a lot of people have been sensing this same thing and they're just like, I'm so glad you said something. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we have it. I'm going to call our recording and our live good here and hope to see you guys on the next little broadcast. If not, catch us on replay, pop us any questions. And again, if you would like to have any kind of personalized interaction or readings, yourbesthopeswc.com for me. And
Venus-13.com for me.
all right, we'll see you in the stars, friends.